Well, it's certainly different. Released in December of 1984, this epic space opera film from surrealist director David Lynch was a box office disappointment, grossing $10 million less than its $40 million budget. Based on Frank Herbert's 1965 novel of the same name, the PG-13 rated story takes place in the distant future, where a duke's son leads desert warriors against a galactic emperor and his father's evil nemesis to free their valuable world from the emperor's rule. I first watched this picture in 2016, and in my unfilmed review on Letterboxd, I described it as an insufferably convoluted and exposition-loaded experience. And unfortunately, it is. But revisiting it 7 years later, I enjoyed much more of its, let's say, eclectic charms than last time. The large ensemble of familiar faces includes Kyle MacLachlan in his film debut as a young nobleman, Paul Atreides, Jürgen Prochnow, Francesca Annis, Patrick Stewart, Brad Dourif, Dean Stockwell, Virginia Madsen, Jose Farah, Kenneth McMillan, Linda Hunt, Richard Jordan, Everett McGill, Sean Young, Max von Sydow, and Sting. The entirety of their screen time is spent prattling on about confusing intergalactic politics, engaging in pseudo-sexual interactions, and wearing bizarre outfits.
Silence! Silence!
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration.
The future Twin Peaks star does a commendable job with the formidable mix of action and dialogue that's required of him. His father, portrayed by German actor Prochnow, gives him some cryptic advice early when he reminds his son, "The sleeper must awaken." MacLachlan also trades kisses with Sean Young in an underdeveloped love story that comes out of nowhere. The 2-hour and 16-minute sci-fi epic begins with the floating spacehead of Virginia Madsen, who delivers a millennium of backstory in 3 minutes. It's only interrupted briefly by the main title sequence before we're presented with even more homework, a figurative PowerPoint slide detailing the different planets and players of our story. Now, this isn't a diegetic shot of some in-world element. We're not looking over someone's shoulder at their computer screen. It's just a straight-up cheat sheet for the audience. And the entire time I can't help but think to myself, is there going to be a quiz on this later or what? Like, for example, one of the bad guys, Pieter de Viders, played by Brad Dourif, has red-stained lips, and we heard earlier that signifies he's a mentat, a so-called human computer, from the training planet of Bene, in defiance of the girls-only birth rule established by the powerful Bene Gesserit sisterhood, generations to produce the Kwisatz Haderach, a super being the Fremen people when the son of Duke Leto Atreides claims his rightful place as leader of the desert planet after sniffing some of the magical spice consciousness and allow for space-folding interstellar travel, something the potish emperor of the universe, the Harkonnens, the arch-enemies of the House Atreides, are best suited to nephews, thanks to Raban and Fayed Ratha, portrayed by the police frontman in metal underpants. Did you catch all that? Don't worry, because Dune will constantly repeat itself with new exposition dumps, inner monologues from nearly every character, and Madsen's omniscient narration, which pops in occasionally to help things along. Now, these reminders are excessive and at times even annoying, but if I'm being honest, kind of helpful too. I know I keep harping on this, but it's difficult to appreciate or be moved by the drama in a film if you don't understand the reality or context of its environment. Like, is riding a giant graboid through the desert a normal occurrence for the Fremen, or is it akin to Jake triumphantly taming the mighty Ikran in Avatar? This was my second viewing. I was leaning forward with subtitles on and paying close attention, and it was still a struggle to follow along. But despite this exceptionally steep learning curve, if you are able to get into the story, it can be richly rewarding, and a big reason why the 40-year-old picture remains a cult classic. But despite the utmost seriousness in which Lynch presents this material, it's hard not to laugh when Jean-Luc Picard charges into battle holding a pug, or when Macmillan finishes another weird monologue by activating a button on his chest, causing him to inflate and float to the ceiling like Mario after grabbing a power balloon. As for its technical bona fides, while few of the chroma keyed shots look convincing today, the matte paintings and large practical sets, however, remain sufficiently impressive and provide the film with a great deal of scale and grandeur. Plus, we've got the Africa hitmakers Toto contributing a pretty cool prog rock score, loaded with guitar synths, choirs, and piano. The costumes and makeup, meanwhile, although often repulsive, are also rather well done. Depending on who you ask anyway, as Stewart and Sydow reportedly described them as the most uncomfortable. While other outfits were literally repurposed from body bags found in a nearby fire station, without informing the cast wearing them that they were used body bags. Yikes. Despite all my complaining, I'm actually glad I rewatched this one. Sometimes you're not in the right headspace, or with a receptive audience, or maybe you're in a bad mood. Whatever the reason, rewatching films I didn't like has often been more rewarding and surprising than rewatching those I did. And honestly, going back to Arrakis was more enjoyable than I expected. But I almost feel like some of my enjoyment came in spite of the film itself. Like, the performances aren't particularly good, the characters are somewhat unpleasant to look at, and the story is way too convoluted. But there's a certain charm to it all.
Gods, what a monster.
I have frequently said I appreciate when movies take big swings, even when they don't land, and this is a prime example of that. A movie so inventive and unique, you really need to see it to believe it. Impressive with how disgusting and confusing everything is. It's easy to understand why Lynch all but disavowed this one. Although it boasts some inventive concepts and interesting visuals, Dune is so overstuffed with its never-ending world building, having genuine fun with it is difficult. I thought it was an alright movie, but something I would recommend everyone check out at least once. That does it for this movie night review, but if you'd like to watch more content, click or tap the thumbnails on the left. And don't forget to visit the Jogwheel YouTube channel to see full episodes of this show, alongside all my other videos. My name is Jonathan Paula, thank you for watching, and have a good movie night.